Welcome to Learn English with Sara. Today we'll explore a beautiful story filled with love, courage, and kindness, Beauty and the Beast. Listen carefully, enjoy the story, and improve your English through every word. Now let's begin. Once upon a time, near a great city by the sea, there lived a wealthy merchant with 6 children, 3 sons and 3 daughters. Among them was the youngest, a gentle and lovely girl named Beauty. Her 2 elder sisters, Rosalind and Hortensia, were proud and lazy. They loved fine clothes and parties, and they often laughed at Beauty for her simple ways. Beauty, with her long red hair and kind smile, preferred staying at home reading books and playing sweet melodies on the piano. One day, tragedy struck. A storm destroyed the merchant's ships at sea, and with them all his fortune. His grand house was sold, and he told his children with a heavy heart, "My dear ones, we have lost everything. We must leave this city and live quietly in the countryside." Rosalind and Hortensia cried in anger and despair. Live in the country." "That's impossible," they complained, but Beauty, calm and gentle, said, "Father, don't be sad. We can still be happy. We can work and start again." So the family moved to a small cottage in the countryside. The merchant's sons worked in the fields, while Beauty rose at 4 o'clock every morning to clean the house, cook, and wash the clothes by the river. Her sisters, however, refused to lift a finger. They spent their days walking in the woods, complaining about the cold and dreaming of the parties they had lost. One evening their father said softly, "My dear Beauty, you work so hard, and yet you're always cheerful. You're my greatest comfort." Beauty smiled. "We still have each other, Father. That's what matters most." A year later, a letter arrived. The merchant's face lit up as he read it aloud. "Your ship has returned safely to the port." Everyone rejoiced. Rosalind and Hortensia clapped their hands with excitement. "We're rich again," they cried. "Father, when you go to the port, bring us the finest clothes and jewels." Then the merchant turned to Beauty. "And you, my dear, what would you like me to bring you?" Beauty shook her head and smiled gently. "Please, Father, just bring me a single rose, the kind that grows near your heart." The next morning the merchant traveled to the port, but his happiness soon turned to despair. His ship had indeed arrived, but it was empty. Robbers had taken everything. Heartbroken and tired, he began his long journey home through a cold, dark forest. As night fell, snow began to cover the ground, and the wind howled through the trees. Wolves cried in the distance, and the merchant trembled with fear. "Where am I?" he whispered. "If only I could find a place to rest." Suddenly through the snow he saw lights shining from a grand castle hidden among the trees. He knocked on the heavy door, but no one answered. When he stepped inside, he found a great hall with a warm fire and a table full of delicious food. No one was there, but the air seemed filled with kindness. Grateful and starving, he ate, warmed himself by the fire, and finally fell asleep in a soft bed. When morning came, he found new clothes waiting beside him. "What generosity," he said aloud. "Whoever lives here must have a noble heart." But when he looked out the window, he was even more surprised. The storm had vanished, the sun was shining, and the garden was full of roses in bloom. He decided to return home at once. Before leaving, he entered the garden, remembering Beauty's wish. "A single rose," he said with a smile, and reached out to pick one. Suddenly the ground trembled, and a terrible roar filled the air. Out of the shadows came a creature unlike any he had ever seen, half man, half beast, with fierce eyes and a deep, rumbling voice. "How dare you steal one of my roses?" the beast thundered. "I gave you food, shelter, and warmth, and this is how you repay me." Terrified, the merchant fell to his knees. "Please forgive me, kind sir," he begged. "The rose is for my daughter Beauty. She wanted nothing else." "I am no sir," the creature growled. "I am the beast. You will pay for your crime. Either you return here to die, or one of your daughters must come in your place." The merchant trembled. "No, my daughters are innocent. I will come back, I promise. Give me 3 months." The beast stared at him for a long moment. "Very well, I can wait. But remember your promise. You may take this chest of gold as a gift. Go and come back when the time is due." The merchant rode home with a heavy heart. His children rejoiced to see him, but their joy quickly faded when he told them of his dreadful adventure. "Oh, father," cried Rosalind, "it's Beauty's fault you risked your life for her silly rose." Beauty stood quietly. "No, it is my fault, and I will make it right. Father, you must not return to that castle. I will go in your place." Her father cried out, "Never, my dear child, I would rather die." But Beauty took his hands gently and said, "You have given us everything. Now it's my turn to give something back." And so, with courage shining in her heart, Beauty prepared to meet the beast. The next morning, Beauty and her father set out on horseback toward the dark forest. The air was cold, and fog covered the path. Beauty's heart beat fast, but she did not let her father see her fear. When they reached the castle gates, the great doors opened by themselves as if welcoming her. Inside, they found a long table filled with delicious food and silver cups of warm milk. Though neither of them was hungry, they sat and ate in silence. When the clock struck 9 p.m., a deep roar echoed through the hall. The merchant's hands began to shake. Beauty looked toward the sound and saw the beast standing in the doorway. His body was covered in thick fur, his teeth sharp as knives, and his voice deep as thunder. Still there was sadness in his eyes. "Good evening," said the beast. "You have kept your promise, old man." Beauty's father fell to his knees, trembling. "Please forgive me. I have brought my daughter as I promised, but she must not die. Take me instead." The beast shook his head slowly. "No, you must return home tomorrow. Your daughter will stay here. Do you agree, Beauty?" Beauty swallowed her fear and nodded. "Yes, I will stay." The beast looked at her for a long moment. "You are brave," he said quietly. Then he turned to her father. "Rest tonight and leave at sunrise." That night, Beauty lay in a beautiful room prepared just for her. The bed was soft, the walls covered with fine paintings, and the scent of roses filled the air. But her heart was heavy. She dreamed of a kind fairy who appeared in a light of gold. Beauty said the fairy, "Your kindness will bring you happiness one day. Be patient and trust your heart." When Beauty awoke, her father stood by her bed, tears in his eyes. "My dear, it's time for me to go," he said softly. Beauty smiled through her sadness. "Don't cry, father. Remember, I love you. Take care of my brothers and sisters." After he left, Beauty wandered through the castle. Every room she entered was filled with treasures, books, and music. One door caught her attention. On it was written, "Beauty's Room." Inside, she found a piano, a library, and a mirror framed in gold. As she looked into the mirror, she gasped, for it showed her father riding sadly through the forest, and her sisters laughing in the garden without her. "Perhaps the beast is not as cruel as I thought," she whispered. When the clock struck 12 p.m., a table appeared with the most delicious meal she had ever seen. She ate a little, feeling grateful, and then went to explore the garden. There were thousands of roses in every color, red, white, yellow, and pink. The air was warm and sweet, and she forgot her fear for a while. That evening, as she sat at the dinner table, the beast entered again. She trembled at first, but then smiled politely. "May I sit with you?" he asked in his deep voice. "You are the master of this house," said Beauty. "And you are the queen," the beast replied gently. For a long moment there was silence. Then the beast asked, "Am I very ugly?" Beauty hesitated. "Yes," she said honestly, "but you are kind and polite. That is what truly matters." The beast smiled sadly. "Thank you, Beauty. Some men are handsome but cruel. I would rather be kind." After dinner, the beast looked at her again. "Beauty," he said softly, "will you marry me?" Beauty froze. "Oh no," she whispered. "I'm sorry, beast, but I cannot." The beast turned away, hurt. "Good night, Beauty," he said, and left the room. Beauty felt a sudden ache in her heart. She didn't love him, but she pitied him deeply. Days passed, then weeks. Beauty began to grow used to her new life. She read books, played the piano, and walked through the rose gardens every afternoon. Though the castle was quiet, it was never lonely, for every evening at 9 p.m. The beast came to dine with her. They spoke of many things, dreams, books, and the meaning of kindness. Each night before leaving, the Beast asked, "Beauty, will you marry me?" And each night Beauty replied softly, "No, my friend." Still, she began to see his heart, gentle, honest, and full of love. Though his face frightened her, his soul did not. She began to look forward to their dinners, to their quiet conversations. She even began to smile when she heard his heavy footsteps coming down the hall. One evening she asked Beast, "Why do you live alone here?" Because he said, "Once I was proud and cruel. Now I must live under a spell until someone loves me truly despite my appearance." Beauty felt her heart ache with sympathy. That night she dreamed again of the fairy. Beauty said the fairy love sees not with the eyes, but with the heart. When she awoke, she whispered, "Perhaps the fairy is right." And so day by day her fear faded, replaced by something gentler, something she could not yet name. 3 months passed at the enchanted castle. Every morning Beauty awoke to sunshine and birdsong. Every evening at 9 p.m. she dined with the Beast. He always treated her with respect and gentleness, never forcing her to stay, but always hoping she would. Despite her comfort, Beauty often thought of her father. She missed his kind smile and worried that he might be lonely without her. One evening, as they sat together at dinner, the Beast looked at her and said, "You seem sad, Beauty. Tell me what troubles you." "I miss my father," she said softly. "He must believe I'm dead." The Beast sighed. "If you wish to see him, you may. But promise me you'll return in 1 week. If you stay longer, I may die of sorrow." "Oh, thank you," Beauty cried. "I promise, Beast, I'll come back in 7 days." The Beast smiled faintly. "Before you go, take this ring. It is magic. When you wish to return, place it on the table beside your bed and you will wake up here." That night, Beauty went to sleep in her golden room, holding the ring tightly in her hand. When she opened her eyes the next morning, she was in her old home. Her father, pale and tired, was sitting by the window. "Father," she cried, running to him, "it's me, your Beauty." The merchant turned and stared, tears filling his eyes. "My child, is it truly you? I thought I had lost you forever." They embraced for a long time, both laughing and crying. Beauty told him about the Beast, about the castle, and about the kindness she had received. Her father listened in wonder. "It seems, my dear, that this Beast is more human than most men." Later that morning, Beauty found a large chest at the foot of her bed filled with beautiful clothes and jewels. "This must be a gift from the Beast," she said, smiling. "He's always so generous." She decided to share her gifts. "I want to give some of these clothes to my sisters," she said. But as soon as she spoke, the chest disappeared. Her father shook his head gently. "The Beast knows your heart. These gifts are for you, my dear, not for those who once mocked you." Instantly, the chest returned full once again. When Rosalind and Hortensia heard that Beauty had returned, they came to visit. Both were unhappy. Their faces, once proud, now looked tired and sad. "Oh, Beauty," said Rosalind, "you are lucky. My husband is handsome but vain. He stares at his reflection all day and never speaks to me." "And mine," said Hortensia bitterly, "is clever but cruel. He finds fault with everyone and makes my life miserable." Beauty took their hands. "I'm sorry, my sisters, I truly am." Hortensia looked at her with envy. "Tell us about the Beast. Is he rich? Is his castle full of treasures?" Beauty smiled gently. "Yes, it is. But what makes it special is not the gold or jewels, it's the kindness that fills it. The Beast is not cruel. He's gentle-wise, and always thinks of others. I have everything I need there, books, music, and peace." Her sisters exchanged angry glances. "Why should she be happy?" whispered Rosalind. "She's plain and quiet, yet fortune smiles on her." "Perhaps we can change that," Hortensia replied with a wicked grin. "The Beast said she must return in a week or he will die. Let's keep her here a little longer. Then we'll see what happens." For the next few days the sisters were unusually kind. They laughed, walked with Beauty in the garden, and spoke sweetly to her. Beauty was touched. "They've changed," she thought. "Perhaps they truly love me now." When the 7th day came, Beauty began to prepare for her return. But her sisters began to cry. "Oh, Beauty," said Rosalind, "please stay just a little longer. We miss you so much." "Yes," said Hortensia, wiping fake tears from her eyes. "Please don't leave yet. 1 more week, that's all we ask." Beauty hesitated. "The Beast will be sad," she said softly. Oh, nonsense, Rosalind insisted. He'll be fine. Surely he wouldn't want to make you unhappy. So Beauty agreed to stay another week. She spent her days helping her father and talking with her sisters, believing in their kindness. But soon she began to dream. Every night she saw the beast in her sleep. His eyes were full of sorrow and his voice was weak. Beauty, he whispered, today is the 10th day and you are not here. I cannot live without you. Beauty woke one night with tears in her eyes. Oh, what have I done? She cried. He is suffering because of me. She ran to her bed, placed the magic ring on the table, and said, I wish to return to the beast. The world spun and she fell into a deep sleep. When she awoke, she was back in her golden room at the castle. But everything was silent, too silent. She ran through the halls calling, Beast, where are you? No one answered. Panic filled her heart. Then she remembered her dream, the garden. She rushed outside and found him lying on the grass beside the roses. His eyes were closed and his breathing was shallow. Oh no, she cried, falling beside him. Beast, speak to me, please. Slowly, he opened his eyes. Beauty, he whispered weakly. You came back. I thought you had forgotten me. No, never, she sobbed. Please don't die. You must live. I can't live without you. Then, with tears streaming down her face, she whispered the words she had never dared to say, I love you, Beast. I love you with all my heart. The moment Beauty spoke those words, a bright light filled the garden. The air shimmered with golden sparkles, and the ground beneath them began to tremble softly. Beauty covered her eyes, afraid of what was happening, but then she heard a new voice, warm, gentle, and full of life. Beauty, it said, open your eyes. When she did, she gasped. Standing before her was not the beast, but a handsome young man with kind eyes and a familiar smile. He looked at her with gratitude and said, Do not be afraid. The spell is broken. Beauty blinked in confusion. But where is my beast? What have you done to him? The young man smiled. My dear Beauty, I was the beast. A cruel witch cursed me long ago because I was proud and heartless. She said that only true love that sees with the heart, not the eyes, could break the spell. When you told me you loved me, you set me free. Beauty's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. Then my love has saved you, she whispered. I thought I had lost you forever. The prince took her hand. You never lost me, Beauty. Your kindness and courage brought me back to life. As he spoke, the castle transformed before their eyes. The walls turned to shining marble, the gardens bloomed brighter than ever, and soft music filled the air. The gray sky cleared, revealing a sun more golden than she had ever seen. It was as if the whole world rejoiced with them. Beauty looked around in wonder. It's so beautiful, she said softly. It has always been beautiful, said the prince, but your love makes it shine brighter. At that moment, the good fairy from Beauty's dreams appeared, surrounded by light. Beauty, she said kindly, you have proved that true love and a kind heart can conquer all. You saw past ugliness and found goodness within. For this, you shall be rewarded. The fairy turned to the prince. And you, young man, have learned that pride and vanity lead only to loneliness. Never forget the lesson Beauty has taught you. Then she turned toward the sky, her voice echoing with power. Let there be joy in this house once more. In a flash of light, Beauty's father appeared beside her. My daughter, he cried, tears of happiness streaming down his face. How wonderful to see you. Beauty hugged him tightly. Father, everything is well now. The beast was never truly a monster, he was a prince under a spell. And I love him. The fairy smiled. Your family shall share in your happiness. But as for those who envy and despise others, they must face the truth of their hearts. Suddenly, Rosalind and Hortensia appeared in the garden. They looked confused and frightened. What is happening? Cried Hortensia. The fairy raised her hand. You have lived with jealousy and pride. Until your hearts change, you shall live as statues, to see and hear, but not to speak or move. Before they could reply, a soft glow surrounded them, and they turned to stone their faces, frozen in surprise and regret. Oh no, cried Beauty, turning to the fairy. Please don't leave them like this forever. The fairy nodded gently. They can return to life when they understand their mistakes and learn to love without envy. Until then, they will watch your happiness and remember their cruelty. Beauty bowed her head. Thank you, kind fairy. I will pray for them every day. The fairy smiled. You have a heart of gold, my child. That is why you were chosen. Then, with a final wave of her wand, she disappeared into the light. The next morning, the castle bells rang joyfully. Flowers filled every room and music echoed through the halls. The prince and Beauty stood before the people, surrounded by laughter and song, and exchanged vows of love and devotion. Beauty wore a gown as white as snow, and her red hair shone like fire beneath the golden crown the prince placed upon her head. When they kissed, the crowd cheered, and even the statues of her sisters seemed to smile faintly, as if they had begun to understand. After the celebration, Beauty and the prince walked through the rose garden hand in hand. The air was sweet with the scent of blossoms, and the sunlight turned everything to gold. Do you remember, Beauty said softly, when I first came here I was so afraid? The prince smiled. And yet you were the bravest soul I've ever known. You taught me that love is not found in beauty or wealth, but in kindness and truth. Beauty leaned her head against his shoulder. And you taught me that appearances mean nothing when the heart is pure. The prince looked into her eyes. Then let us promise to live with gratitude and love, not for what we have, but for who we are. Years passed, and Beauty and the prince ruled the kingdom with wisdom and compassion. They helped the poor, comforted the lonely, and made their land a place of peace. Travelers who visited their castle often said that happiness seemed to live there in every flower, every song, and every smile. And sometimes when Beauty walked through the garden at sunset, she would see 2 roses growing side by side, one red, one white, and she would whisper a quiet prayer for her sisters. Because Beauty never forgot the lesson her journey had taught her, that love, kindness, and forgiveness are the greatest treasures of all. Thank you for listening to this story on Learn English with Sara. If you enjoyed Beauty and the Beast, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment to tell us what you learned from this beautiful tale. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to you every week.